Hello, fellow Bible explorers. We are exploring Exodus chapter 34 today in our 5-minute study, free PDF. There's a link down in the description if you want it, but you're about to see it up on the screen. Here we go. When did the events of Exodus chapter 34 take place? Well, the Exodus happened about 1491 BC, according to my calculations. There's some varying dates on that, but those are the dates that I'm going with based on my research. The children of Israel got out of slavery 1491 BC. The events of Exodus 34 specifically occurred about 4 to 6 months after that. Our characters have all been well introduced to us if you've been studying along with us. There's more information on the PDF if you're interested, but very quickly I'll just say that our main characters are God, Moses, and the children of Israel, also known as the Hebrews. Where did these events take place? We are still encamped around Mount Sinai and going to be there still for some time. And you can see Mount Sinai down there on the bottom of the map. Moving on now into our second page and into our outline, verses 1 through 9, Moses meets with God to recreate the stone tablets. So the Lord told Moses to cut 2 new tablets of stone to replace the ones that he broke after seeing the people worshiping the golden calf, if you remember that back from Exodus 32. God met with Moses on Mount Sinai, quote, in the cloud, and stood with him there and proclaimed the name of the Lord. That would have been pretty cool. God described himself as one who was merciful, forgiving, slow to anger, but also a God who would not allow evildoers and wickedness to go unpunished. Moses worshiped the Lord, and he begged him to accompany the Israelites as they entered the land of Canaan. And then we're told that God wrote his laws on Moses' 2 new tablets of stone. In section number 2, verses 10 through 28, God renews his promises or his covenant with Israel. So God promised to go with the Israelites and to help them drive out the wicked inhabitants of the land of Canaan. They were not to make any peace treaties with the inhabitants. They were also not to intermarry with them. And a list of them is given in these verses: the Amorites, the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites. We'll read a lot more about those names coming up in future books. When the Hebrews entered the land of Canaan, they were to tear down all of the pagan altars and to rid the land of idolatry. As part of God's covenant with them, they were supposed to keep God's commands, including keeping his special feast days: the Passover, the Feast of Unleavened Bread, the Feast of Weeks, and the Feast of Ingathering. They were to observe the Sabbath day, the special day of rest on the 7th day of the week. The firstborn of both animals and man were supposed to be dedicated to the Lord. God has already mentioned all of these things in the past, but he's now renewing this covenant and reminding his people of these things. Moses, quote, was there with the Lord 40 days and 40 nights. He neither ate bread nor drank water, and he wrote on the tablets the words of the covenant, the 10 Commandments. And then finally, in the last section, verses 29 through 35, we talk about Moses' shining face. So when Moses came down from Mount Sinai to the people with his 2 tablets of stone, his face was shining because he had been talking with God. You don't talk with God and then walk away unchanged. Moses called the people to him, and then he taught them all the laws of the Lord. Then Moses put a veil over his face when he finished talking to the people. And every time Moses spoke with God from then on, he lifted the veil. And when he brought God's message to the people, they would know that his message had originated with God because his face would be shining. And now finally, for our application, a question for you for your consideration. And that is, who do you relate to most in this story? I would like to think that I'm, the Moses character, the man of constant faithfulness who meets with God to advocate on the part of other people. But truthfully, I can be a lot like the Israelites, fickle, unfaithful, in constant need of God's mercy and his forgiveness. So I just ask that question to you to make the point, as we read the Bible, let's read it humbly. Jesus is the hero of this story, not us. And we can all be like the Israelites from time to time, probably more often than we would like to admit.